Hi guys, John here. I get that this is a little bit strange that I'm recording myself while and presenting it to you while we're in the room, but as explained, it's just an easier way to show you how the SAPS analysis works, and it's something that you'll be able to access later on to be able to do this as well because there's a few technical steps. So, as explained, the small area population statistics are a way that the census is broken down into geographic areas covering roughly between 100 and 300 people. And the idea is that it's kind of detailed enough that it gives you a picture of the local area, but it's not so detailed that you can identify and say that this is a particular person or this is a particular person's education, race, mobility, disability, volunteering, or whatever the case may be. So it's just a way of presenting the information locally, but at enough of a scale that it's anonymous. So what you do is you go to Google and you type in SAPS CSO, so SAPS CSO, and that takes you to this top link here where we look at the small area population statistics. So it's a 2022 census we're going to look at, and we're going to look at the interactive mapping tool. Now, if any of you are into data, there is tons and tons of information, but ultimately it's easier just to work through the map and work through that. So the themes that it gives you around the small area population statistics, looking at sex and marriage, Irish language, the status of the household around, is it a private household, who the ownership of the house, is there a mortgage on it, is it rented, whatever the case may be. Do people volunteer, what their social class is, their commuting distance, their occupation, do they have a car and internet access, where they came from, the family structure or items around the house, their principal status, their education, disabilities, carers, and general health, and then the types of industries and areas they work in. So to progress this, I'm going to pick one area in Donegal. So I decided I would pick Fintown as my area. So you go in here, you click on the map link. I'll just do that again. So you click on the map link here, and that opens up this additional page, which basically gives you a map of Ireland. So Donegal is there, and it shows you the very small boundaries and the small areas. And you'll note whenever we go into it, so I'll just look for Fintown here. So Fintown, County Donegal is where I'll go with, and it takes me to here. So there's a wee bit of kind of footering to get to the geographic area centered in my screen. But you'll see here, so this area here represents about 100 people, or about 100 and somewhere between 100 and 300 people. But this area here also represents somewhere between 100 and 300 people. So it just gives you an idea of the scale in these. But if you were in the middle of a town, the area to represent 100 people might be half of an estate, or it might be some small section of an estate. So it's just to give you an idea of what's there. So we've picked this one area of Fintown, and that's kind of the center of Fintown there, working on out through. And this is the lake in Fintown, if any of you are familiar. And essentially, the area that we're looking at is the area around the railway, but also back out along, I presume, the main road. No, the main road comes through here. So they've broken it up into two areas. So if we click on this area, and so it's highlighted, we're able to see where it is we are looking for around that. So, like we said, we have all of the information here: sex, age, marital status, ethnic, migration, ethnicity, and religion, Irish language, on the way down to car availability, etc. So we double click on this and it opens up this other section. Now I find it easier to look at the table, but just to give you the information here, in this geographic area, there's 152 people, 81 males, 71 females. And I find the table easier to work with when we look at this. So if you look at the makeup of these people, so we have males here, females here. So under four, there's six, five to nine, there's 10, and it kind of gives you the breakdown as it goes. And, you can tell, I suppose, looking at it, it fairly evens out, even though strangely, there's more men here by 10 than there is females, but you see it kind of strongly represented there. In age of 5 to 9, there's 7 boys, 3 girls, on through. And from 20 to 24, there's 6 males and 2 females, that sort of thing. But the idea is that you're kind of getting a sense of who's in the community. So if you were going to organize an older people's event for this kind of wider community of Fintown, you'd be able to say, well, look, over the age of 60, we have this amount of people. So that's 28, 35, 44, 48 people are in this small area of 152 people are aged over the age of 60. So we can say that a third of the population is aged over 60, and it just gives us kind of facts and information about the community that we're able to work through. So that's, I suppose, looking at that. Similarly, if we were going to organize a preschool or we were going to organize something for young people, chances are there's 24 young people here. So that's 1/6 of the category fall within that kind of teenage band of 10 to 19. So maybe there's a need, or if we look at 5 to 9 and 10 to 14, you've got 22 people there. So maybe there's a need for like a small after schools or something like that that would be useful for this community. I'm going to come out of this one and then look at some other kind of data and statistics as well. So with all of these ones, you can basically hit to view all data and it throws up a sheet that tells you everything that you need to know about the area. So this is the gender breakdown that we looked at, or the age and profile and stuff like that. This gives you the marital status of the people. Now, ultimately, a lot of this isn't overtly useful, but it gives you maybe an idea of the widowers. It gives you an idea of kind of people that are single in the area, people maybe that are married or whatever the case may be. Your ethnicity then, so everybody in this area either comes from Ireland or the United Kingdom. There's 3 people have not stated, and lots of these questions, there's core questions in the census that are mandatory. Now, ultimately, you get to decide whether you complete any of them, and this is all self-certified. So, there's nobody checking the date of birth of anybody. When they tick a box, when they say they have a particular status, then we go with that and we take it that people tell the truth in the census. And over the entire area, it will define down to the truth within that. So the ethnicity of this particular area in Fintown, you have 136 people are white Irish, and 9 people non-stated, and 5 people other white. So this wouldn't necessarily be a good area for us to include new community activities or integration activities or any of those sort of things. What really is needed here is those core community development activities, looking at youth services, looking at older people services, maybe looking at supports maybe for people that are isolated or living alone within the community. So where you lived a year ago, so everybody either lived within the county within Ireland or at the same address a year ago. The religious breakdown of the area, the languages spoken, so it wouldn't be a good place for a Spanish tourist to stop and seek help if they didn't speak English. Um, you've got the ability to speak English. Now, this was an optional one, so one person that can speak it very well, but ultimately, the ability to speak Irish probably predominated this community more. And 108 out of the 152 or 147 respondents, but ultimately there was 152 people in the area, said that they had the ability to speak Irish. Now, this could be that the under fours were excluded or something like that. Where you speak Irish. So do you use it in the education system? Do you use it outside the education system, weekly only within the education system, less often out? And it gives you a profile of the Irish speakers in the area. So if you were looking to do a project around kind of community development and you wanted to get money from Údar's na Gaeltachta or Ring na Gaeltachta, you'd be able to go back and say we have a very strong Irish language community. 2/3 of the people in our area say that they are Irish speakers and we want help with this program. Information on the family side, so it gives you an idea of kind of who's living in the household and kind of the structure and makeup of that. The families with the number of kids that they have. So it's interesting. There's no families here reporting that they have, or there's one family reporting that they have 4 or more children, one with 5 or more children. But you'll find the predominant amount is now kind of smaller families, 1 and 2 child families as it goes. And that brings additional sort of, or not issues, that brings additional services into the community, and maybe that one child or families with 1 child or 2 small children would want additional socialization through the options around preschools or play schools or kind of parent toddler groups or after school activities or whatever the case may be. This tells you the number of children by their age in the community, the youngest age children, and then, you know, where you are in kind of the family cycle. Are you an older couple? Are you retired? Are you at preschool age, pre-adolescent, adolescent, adult, or all family units? So it gives you all of this information. Private households, you know, one person living alone, there's 18 of them. There's 11 houses have married couples in them. Nobody's cohabitating. Married with children is 16. So you'll find that some of these figures conflict just because of the way that people have kind of stated what it is they're doing and how it is they're reporting the information. But overall, it gives you a picture of the community that is there. Kind of the number of people in the house again, the type of housing. So, you know, it's all houses or bungalows in this area. You don't have flats or apartments and other types of housing. When the housing was built, so this could be interesting if you were looking at a community renovation or a retrofitting program. So if we take that any house probably pre-2000 was built, you know, to a standard that didn't include modern installation and things like that, you've got a range of houses in the community that fall within that area. And it also tells you the number of people living in those houses as you're going. You know, how the houses are owned. So owned outright is the majority, owned with a mortgage, rented from a private landlord, or rented from the local authority. The information is all provided there. The number of rooms in the house, how you heat your house, where you get your water from, the type of sewerage you use, the occupancy, you know, is it an unoccupied holiday home? Is it a vacant dwelling? Is it an occupied house? So you see there that there was ultimately 85 houses within this community, but only 58 of them had permanent residents. Um, Number of bedrooms, and information like that. Do you use renewable energy? Do you have a smoke alarm? Do you volunteer? So 26 people out of the 152 stated that they volunteer. You know, your principal economic status, what it is that you do, you working, you at school, you retired, you're unable to work due to illness, whatever the case may be. The category of your working. So if you were like looking at kind of, if you took here kind of non-manual or semi-skilled or unskilled labor, if you were looking to do a program to upskill people in the community, this would give you information and statistics around that. Your socioeconomic group, your education level. So the age at which your education ceased, um, you know, it states it there, basically 13 males and 8 females, their education ceased at age over 21. So that you presume is, you know, we've been to college and we finished college. Um, Education not ceased, the highest level of education completed. So you've got 6 people in those 152 with a degree, and you work your way kind of down from there. The commuting distance, so how people get to work usually. So, you know, some people walk, people drive, people cycle, etc., etc. What time you have to leave home, and you'll see there's a myriad of information available within all of these different sections. You know, it talks about can you work from home? You know, do you have your children in childcare? What ages they are? What disabilities you might have? What the profile of the carers that are in the area. You then rate your own general health. It asks you, do you smoke? What your occupation is, how you define that. It looks at the industry that you're working in. It looks at the number of cars that are in the area. It tells you about the broadband availability in the area. So if this was at 0, then it would be flagging up that there's a need for a project and a program around broadband supply in that area as we were looking. So we're going to look now at, I suppose we've looked at that area of Fintown, but nobody really works within that sort of small an area. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at this radius option. Now you can look at multi-area as well, but I find radius to be quite good. So if we say we're going to look at Fintown, and we can look at a radius of Fintown. So we can say this is 3 kilometers, and I can extend that radius up to 10 kilometers. But let's say you were doing a community project and you were going to get people from within a couple of miles of Fintown to come and work with you or talk to you or whatever the case may be. So if we said we were going to do, I'll make it 3 kilometers just for convenience. So this is all of the areas that are geographically within 3 kilometers of Fintown. And I'll just reduce this down a little bit to be able to show you. So the way that this works is any area that is touched is highlighted within it. So if you look out here, this is very far from Fintown, but considering that there's 150 people roughly, or 150 to 300 people living in this big, massive area, they could all be living down here or they could all be living here, but ultimately it's just about judging and getting a sight for how it is you're doing it. Here, similarly, there's, if anybody who's familiar with the road from Fintown to Doory, there's very few houses out in this area, but it just gives you any area that's touched within the 3 kilometers appears in the information that we're using. This tells you that there's 4 geographic areas and it gives you the codes for those 4 areas as well. So we're able to view data, and it's maybe not going to give me the same level of data, but I can go into the individual records or the individual sections and find the level of data that I want for this particular area. So those 4 geographic areas have a total population of 600. So if you were providing a service in Fintown and you were going to do it within, let's say, 2 miles of the centre of Fintown, then your catchment area is 600 people. Now, if that's enough for your service, that's fine. Otherwise, maybe you have to go to 5 kilometers or whatever the case may be. And this gives you the kind of the age breakdown of all of those 600 people. And if we just focus once again on the over 60s, so I'm not going to try and do the maths in my head as we go here, but that is what, 68, all around that to 70 and 50 comes to 120, add on another 30 is 150, and we'll say another 30 to catch the odds and ends there. So about 180. So roughly again, similar, it's about a third of the population is over 60. And you'll remember when we looked at the 152 or the 1 geographic area, about a third of the population was over 60 as well. So, it gives you a snapshot of what the population looks like in a particular area, the issues and challenges they may have. And if you're making a funding application, it's important that you're able to say, we have the following rate of widows, we have the following rate of single parents. This is our educational status for the 600 people that we serve in our community. And it's always just about providing that evidence and knowing your community as you go. Okay, so I'm going to stop recording and go back to the room.